Hello and welcome back. I am Chris and you are watching Marksman TV. Welcome back to another gun store vlog where today we are going to talk about the recent news dropped by UPS over the weekend and where this leaves us as a community for both licensed and non-licensed individuals when it comes to shipping firearms. If that sounds interesting to you, please stick around. That's coming up now. So over the weekend, there has been a lot of chatter about a letter that was sent by UPS to one of its account holders, Ghost Firearms. Now, Ghost Firearms is an FFL based out of Florida, and they deal in firearms, parts, accessories, and 80% lower receivers. In the letter, UPS indicated that it would be discontinuing the account of Ghost Firearms, and on top of that, they would be potentially seizing and destroying some of the parcels that were in the UPS system. This has, of course, raised a lot of alarm bells with people in the Second Amendment community. Not only is it very alarming that a private company is going to take it upon themselves to seize and potentially destroy legal private property that they had agreed to deliver to the intended recipient, but it is also potentially narrowing the scope or the options for people, whether licensed or unlicensed, for shipping firearms in the United States. Now, in this video, I'm not going to talk really at length about what has happened with UPS. There are a lot of very good videos covering this topic, including one done by a friend of mine, 2AEDU, who is one of the first, I believe, to actually break this story on YouTube. I will leave a link to his video down in the description if you're interested about knowing about the specifics of what happened over the weekend with UPS. What I'm going to be talking about in more detail is specifically the options and the legalities around shipping firearms across state lines. Now, if you have any questions specifically pertaining to your firearm, to your local jurisdiction, or to a jurisdiction you will be shipping to, I do recommend you contact your attorney or the local ATF field office for more clarity on your specific circumstance. I do not recommend using this video as legal advice. So with that out of the way, let's press on. Now, in this country, there are basically three legacy carriers. They are the three main carriers that do probably 95% of the shipping. That's going to be UPS, USPS, and FedEx. Now, when it comes to what is policy and what is law, remember the two are not totally intertwined with one another. Private company policy is usually drafted to follow with laws, but they usually throw their own additional terms or conditions into their own company policies as well. Now, if you break a company policy that is not also breaking federal law, remember, you're not necessarily in trouble. You just could be subject to maybe having your account suspended or having the package seized and destroyed, or if it's lost, you may not get your insurance claim on that property. But remember, you are not necessarily breaking law if that policy is not covered by the law. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the laws governing the sale of firearms both privately and for FFLs, whether in your state or outside of your state in this country. And then we will talk about the different company policies of the three different carriers and how closely they follow the laws or go beyond the scope of the laws. So first of all, if you are a non-FFL, you can in most cases sell a firearm privately in your own state. Now, there are a couple limitations here. First, you cannot have any reason to believe that the person you are selling to is prohibited from owning a firearm, such as if they elect to tell you that they are a felon, for example. Next is you cannot sell a firearm to a person who is not legally old enough to possess the firearm you are selling to them. Also, you cannot sell an illegal firearm, such as an unregistered machine gun, and you have to be selling to a member of your own state. So if you're in Indiana and you're selling to somebody who is a resident of Ohio, even if the Ohio resident travels to Indiana, you cannot sell them that firearm face-to-face. You would have to go to their state, meet them at a dealer in their state. They will have to do a background check in their state and take possession of the firearm that way. Now, for FFLs inside their own state, there's really two ways that they can dispose of a firearm to another person. One is if the other person is themselves an FFL, they can dispose of that firearm to that other FFL on their license. Also, a private non-FFL can purchase that firearm from that FFL as long as they are doing a NICS background check either in their store or a recognized venue such as a gun show, and they can get rid of it that way. Now, if we're talking about across state lines, if you are a non-FFL and you want to ship a firearm to a member of another state, you will have to, in all cases, ship that firearm to an FFL in the state of the person receiving the firearm. You will get a copy of the license from the receiving dealer. You will ship it to that dealer. The buyer will go into the dealer's location. They will conduct a background check, pay that dealer a fee. The fee will vary based on what the dealer wants to charge, and then they can take possession of that firearm. For an FFL, shipping to another state, the process is the same. They will have to ship to an FFL. Now, you are not legally prohibited from shipping a firearm to a licensed dealer if you do not have a license. So you can include a copy of your driver's license and ship it to that dealer. The dealer can use your driver's license to put the firearm on their books. Now, there is really no federal limitation against that. It's just some dealers have their own policy that would restrict private people from sending firearms to them. Again, that's going to be up to the policy of that dealer and whether or not they want to accept firearms from unlicensed people. So let's pivot over to the policy, starting with the U.S. Postal Service, USPS. Now, a private person cannot ship a handgun through USPS, even if you're shipping it to a dealer. You cannot ship them at all. You can ship, however, a long gun, that's a rifle or a shotgun, to a resident of your own state without it going to a dealer, but if it's going outside of your own state, it must be shipped to a dealer. Now, if you are an FFL, you can ship handguns and long guns inside your state or outside of your state as long as it is going to an FFL. If we move on to UPS, UPS used to follow very closely to these laws as well. However, if you were even within your own state, sending it to another person within your own state, UPS did require that it be shipped to a dealer within your own state or outside of your state, and that was true for FFLs as well. Now, a wrench has been thrown into the cogs here as the new policy has been written to include parts that can be readily assembled into a complete firearm or incomplete receivers that are not serialized. Now, there's a little bit of ambiguity here that I don't quite understand, which is where it would be helpful to maybe talk to an attorney or talk to UPS about clarity on these rules. But when they say parts that can be assembled into a complete firearm, do they mean every part in the box must be present in the box to assemble the firearm? Or do they mean a single part that can be added to other parts not in the box to assemble a firearm, in which case any part that's shipped could therefore be in violation of their policies? When it comes to receivers, they mean any incomplete receiver that falls into the definition of what a firearm is must be serialized. However, up until this point, an 80% lower was not deemed to be a firearm. Yet here we are. So again, a little bit of ambiguity there. So if an 80% receiver has to be serialized, therefore an unserialized 80% receiver would be counter to their policies, or you would be shipping outside of what is accepted by them. Now that leads us to FedEx, which I find to be the interesting one because this has not really been covered by a lot of people. In April of 2021, they also changed their policy stating that you can no longer ship a firearm through FedEx unless you had an FFL. Furthermore, even if you had an FFL, you had to have a firearm shipping compliance agreement letter, which in my experience was actually pretty hard to obtain. I mainly ship FedEx, and I always have mainly shipped FedEx. As many of you may know, we have a website where we receive things from other private sellers, in which case it became difficult for us to be able to continue receiving those through the new policies of FedEx unless we had that agreement. It took us 2 or 3 months to finally get that agreement letter, and we did, but it's also been made clear in the letter that they can revoke the letter at any time for any reason, whether they want to change policies or just flat out remove us as an account, such as UPS did with Ghost Firearms in Florida. What this is doing is effectively narrowing the scope pretty small into where are the different avenues that people can ship firearms. So to recap, if you are a private person, you cannot ship FedEx at all. You can ship you can ship UPS, but you run the risk of having your parcel seized and destroyed. Or you can ship USPS, which seems to be the real only logical answer. If you are a federally licensed dealer, you can ship all 3 carriers, except with FedEx, you have to have the compliance letter. With UPS, you run the risk of having your products seized and destroyed. And then there is USPS, which seems to so far not have really any real limitations. So USPS will probably be getting the bulk of firearm commerce type shipments, both privately and through FFLs moving forward. That is basically the summary of where we are at this point, at least through my observations as a licensed dealer. If you found this video interesting or helpful, please let me know by leaving a comment or a like on this video. If you have any questions, leave those down below. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell notification button so you are aware when I am posting new content. I'm going to leave you guys off with that. I am Chris, you are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.